Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanMuscle.com. Today we're taking a closer look at and of course installing the Anderson Composites Type-GT5 GT500 style double-sided carbon fiber hood available for the 18 and newer GT and EcoBoost Mustang. You should be checking this out for your own S550 if you're looking to shave a pretty significant amount of weight while picking up an extremely exotic look at the front end, mimicking the style of the GT500. Now the GT500 is known to have those heat extraction sections in the middle. You can see those louvers right in the center there, perfectly above your intake manifold or your supercharger. And that's gonna help with, of course, performance gains, letting some of that excess heat out. That also has removable and paintable wire mesh on the inside. Now that's something that you can customize even further, remove altogether, or leave as is. Now the rest of this is a double-sided true carbon fiber weave. Now, as you can see, the top here is extremely glossy, and unlike some of the other hoods in the category that are carbon fiber, the underside is too. Typically, when you pick up a carbon fiber hood like this, top's gonna be really glossy for all of that nice show, but when you pop the hood there, it's more of a bare carbon fiber material. Not gonna be the case here. It's really, really good looking inside and out. Now, as far as weight savings here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail when we talk about this compared to stock, but no up front here, this one comes in right around 25 pounds, whereas your factory hood comes in right around 41 pounds. Good for weight savings of around 15 to 16 pounds, making a whole lot of difference on the drag strip. Obviously, that can affect your quarter mile. Now, as far as looks go, this is great for just show cars out there. Maybe not someone looking for weight savings per se, but someone looking for one of the most aggressive hoods available in the category, indisputably. This guy has a near perfect OEM fitment. It's tight around both sides, which can make it a little bit more difficult to line up. You have to be very meticulous on how you install this. Definitely something to do with a helping hand, but once installed correctly, it is definitely a looker. Now, a couple of notes I want to make about this particular hood here. While it's using the GT500 molding, you are going to have to pick up a different heat shield. A heat shield is required. Without it, you are running the risk of warping the materials from the heat on the inside. Now, your factory hood heat shield is not going to do the trick, nor will an OEM GT500 one. You have to pick up one that's similar to Dynamat that rolls on and sticks to the inside, available from Anderson Composites. Definitely recommend picking that up. Heat shield's gonna be recommended, and it's also recommended to pick up some hood pins. Now, hood pins are gonna help prevent any further damage or any failing of the factory hood latch. This guy is super light, so it is recommended to have that extra security. Because it's super light, it's also not recommended to use hood struts. When using hood struts, you pop that guy open, it can be pretty aggressive opening a super light hood like this. Hood struts are typically meant for the larger, more heavyweight hood from the factory or some of those aftermarket options, not meant for carbon fiber. Finally, guys, the price on this is gonna come in right around $1,600 to $1,650, which does put it at the higher end of the hood spectrum, but that is to be expected with a carbon fiber, let alone a double-sided option like this. Install 3 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. It does require some modification and some drilling to make sure all of the OEM pieces you have to transfer over do fit. Things like your factory weather stripping above the cowl, you'll have to do some drilling to get that to clip back in. And you're also gonna have to do some drilling when it comes to installing your washer fluid reservoir tubes. Now, the tubes themselves have clips that you have to drill in, but there is pre-drilled holes for the nozzles. And I'll show you guys how we're gonna transfer that over. I'll walk you through the drilling process that I'll show you guys. The only thing we're not gonna be doing is installing the heat shield. Definitely recommend picking that up separately though. Now, the install is gonna take you about an hour, maybe 2 from start to finish, depending on your experience. Again, I'm gonna walk you through it. Let's get to it. Tools used in this install include a 1/4-inch ratchet, 10mm deep socket, needle nose pliers, a center punch for drilling, a variety of drill bits, and a drill. All right, first step here, we're gonna uninstall a couple of factory components. Because our new hood has studs for the hood latch, obviously, we're gonna take our factory latch off. Now, that's 2 10mm nuts holding that guy on. It's really simple. Might as well do it while the hood is still in place. I got my 1/4-inch ratchet here, my 10mm socket. Let's get these guys off. All right, now we can take this guy off and set it aside. Next up, we're gonna remove our factory weather stripping. Now, if you head back toward the cowl, directly above that, we have one strip that goes straight across in that roller coaster line. Now, some people may opt out of transferring this over because it does require drilling to the inside of your new carbon fiber hood. They are held on with simple push pin little plastic clips that go into holes similar to this guy here. Now, you may opt out of this, totally your preference, but professionally, like if you want to do it correctly, you do want to transfer it over. So I'm going to use a panel removal tool to pop this guy off. So you can pull this back and start to see the plastic clips. And you're just going to pry down and pop those guys off. As you can see, this one came off the rubber. That may happen. You might want to have a pair of pliers on deck to pull these guys out. All right, so I'm going to use needle nose pliers to carefully pull this guy out of place. There you go, and just set them aside. I'm going to take the entire weather stripping off, and I'll come back and remove any that stay in place. Now next up, we have to address our washer nozzles. Now the nozzles themselves are down here in little square cutouts. Now there are cutouts on our new carbon fiber hood, which makes life easier, but we have to run the wiring or the hoses that go along with it. Now the connector for this nozzle here on our driver's side is up here, right at the top of this heat shield. So we're gonna go right underneath it and disconnect, and then we'll pop this guy out. You wanna have a rag on deck. I have a microfiber here because once you disconnect this, there is going to be some washer fluid that dumps out on you. Not a ton, maybe like half a cup's worth. You wanna make sure you have this right here. So I'm gonna go right up here, and it may be tough to see. I'm gonna peel this back a bit. This right here is our elbow connector. So I'm gonna put this right underneath of it and just pinch and disconnect. Just like that. Just have some of it dump out. Dry it off. All right, so now we can come back down to the nozzle, and you're just gonna pull back and slide this guy forward. Just like that. Now again, if you lift it up, some might dump out of it. Just make sure you're setting it aside somewhere you don't mind getting wet. So now what we can do is just lift this guy up, and while we're on this side, I'm gonna disconnect this hose that reaches to the other end because we are gonna have to remove it. So that, we have one more over here. Now we can head to the other side. All right, so now we're on the other side, and again, I'm just gonna grab my rag to make sure I catch any of the excess. Head back down, disconnect, and just slide it out. All right, so now we can pinch and disconnect the rest of this hose. All right, there we go. All right, next up, we can actually start focusing on removing our hood. Now, with our hood prop still up, I'm gonna focus on these hood brackets. There's two studs, two 10mm nuts on both sides. I got my 1/4" ratchet and my 10mm socket, deep socket, to remove these guys. Now, what I'm gonna do is on both sides, I'm gonna back the nut all the way up to the last thread, but keep them on. That way our hood is still secured, and I know it's not gonna fall off on us. Then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Once all 4 nuts are loose enough to take off by hand, I'll grab a friend to get this hood off with me. All right, same thing on the other side. All right, so now I got my buddy Joe with me to help on the passenger side. We're just feeding off those 10mm nuts. We're gonna take the hood off together. All right, and carefully from the driver's side, take your hood prop off. So we got our factory hood off of our 2018 Performance Pack GT behind me in race red. It's on the ground next to our Anderson Composites Type GT5. Now this GT500 style hood is way different than our factory option in a number of ways. Really the only similarity is going to be fitment. Now this guy here is that double-sided carbon fiber like I mentioned earlier, and it has that extra skeleton underneath molded together, and it also has that gloss finish which looks amazing under the hood. So if you're building a show car, this is going to look absolutely beautiful. In my opinion, it's like a work of art. Now this guy has a gloss finish on top, a nice resin coating, so it is super durable. The main thing about carbon fiber to mention is weight loss. Carbon fiber hoods are super light. Now your factory hood, depending on your model, comes in right around 41 pounds. Looking at your carbon fiber one here from Anderson Composites, it's coming in right around 25 pounds. That's about 15 to 16 pounds of weight loss, which can make a huge difference, especially for guys looking to shed weight for the drag strip. Weight directly correlates to your quarter-mile time, so this can shave off a little bit of time for you as you start to strip down your vehicle. Now this guy here also has huge heat extraction capabilities. Now this hood, being the GT500 clone, is gonna have that GT500 heat extractor vent. Now the vents come in right around 3.5 or a little under 3.5 square feet of space, and it also has 19 by 26 inches of vents. Now the vents underneath actually have a mesh screen on each one of the little louvers there, and that is paintable and removable. So one, you can take it off and custom paint it to a color of your choice, just to take the personalization a little bit further. You can also just take it off completely and leave it off. It's all personal preference. It's worth noting that vehicles with a root style blower can really take advantage of that heat extraction capability because it'll sit right under those louvers. Now, it is worth mentioning here that with a hood like this, with big heat extractions, you can expect rainwater to make its way under the hood. Now, most vehicles off the factory line that offer something like this have some kind of rain tray. So it's worth noting that that is going to be an issue there. Of course, you can make something custom yourself if you'd like to take care of that, or you can just avoid driving it in the wet weather. Now keep in mind, as I said earlier, this does require a heat shield. Your factory heat shield will not transfer over. You may be able to make some modifications to it to make it work, but it's not recommended. It's recommended to pick up the aftermarket heat shield provided by Anderson Composites. It's made specifically for applications like this. It's more of a peel and stick type application. You can unroll it, stick it right underneath the hood, and you can custom cut it to the shape that you need it to be. Now, Anderson Composites does recommend picking up 2 of them, as one won't cover enough surface area on the inside of this hood. You might want to keep in mind it's recommended to pick up 2 of them. Now, also transferring over, as we've talked about, the washer fluid hoses are going to have to be drilled in along with the weather stripping. Weather stripping is not required, but heavily recommended. So the next step in this process is to, take care of the drilling. We'll use the underside of the factory hood as our guide. We'll make our template and then transfer it over to do some drilling. Drilling is optional, but if you want to take care of it, I'll show you my method. All right, now what we're going to do next is focus on drilling our holes for our weather stripping. Now, if you look closely in the reflection here, you can see little dimples marked into the bottom of the carbon fiber here. Now, those little holes mark where these plastic clips will go in on the underside of the weather stripping. Now, it can be difficult to see, so you want to make sure you have some good lighting on it. You can move your head back and forth, and you'll see them pop up. Now, before you do any drilling, just take the weather stripping here and just make sure that those dimples are lining up to where the clips are on the back side. Now, it looks like all the way through here, it'll curve around, come back around the center of the cowl, and move around. It's just one big roller coaster. So we've confirmed that this lines up. I'm gonna grab a 3/16 drill bit, and you wanna make sure you're testing your drill bit on your factory hood, that it goes through the factory holes so you know you have the right size. Now, when you're also doing this, you don't want to put too much pressure on, because obviously you do not want to drill through the other side. That's a huge no-no. It's going to screw the entire hood up. So just when you're drilling this hole, make sure it's only going through this layer. All right, and when you're ready, you can grab a center punch and mark these holes and get started. All right, so now I'm gonna take this clip and just give her a test. That fits in there perfectly. So now we can repeat that process for each one of these holes. All right, so just continue that process along the entire carbon fiber. All right, so now that we have our holes drilled, we can plug our weather stripping clips in. Next, we have to drill our hole for our washer fluid connection. Now that'll come right through this hole at the front, snap in, and as you can see, our connector is up here. So we're gonna have to drill an exit hole for that right around this area. And I'm gonna use this as a reference, line that up to the pre-drilled hole for the nozzle, and it looks like it's gonna come out right about here. So I'm just gonna mark that hole with my center punch. Now we may have to step our bit up a couple of times just to get a hole sufficient enough to get this nozzle to come through. It'll come through a little bit extra, but then our connector will go right into it. Still not big enough, so we're gonna step up again until it's the right size. All right, so now I'm guiding our washer nozzle through. Now it can be tough to get this guy to line up, but once you see it come through, I'm gonna have to bend it a little bit. Push that in while pulling from the outside, just like that. All right, let's repeat that same process on the opposite side. All right, so as you can see at this point, we're going to install our hood carefully with a helping hand and put our factory nuts back through these hood brackets. All right, so while that is attached, I'm going to bring our hood prop up to connect it. At this point, you want to focus on trying to align your hood. Now, if you're going to shut it to test where it's at, you want to make sure you're doing so very carefully, watching the corners where it meets the top of this windshield, while also watching the side of your fenders. You don't want this to come down and overlap on your paint because it can start scratching and damaging your factory paint. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lift this up so that this corner doesn't touch this top of the fender. And I'm going to tighten these nuts down, and then I'll repeat on the other side and see where we're at. You also, when you're doing this, don't want to over tighten these nuts. You don't want to damage the carbon fiber. Next up, we can worry about connecting our washer fluid hose. Now, along the side here, there are 2 holes for the black pushpin clips. There's a couple in total, about 5 or 6 of them. 2 of them are going to go here, so I'm just going to snap those into place. From here, we have one in between this and the side, and we have another on the other side. I'm going to focus on the connectors first, though. So I'm going to grab this hose and snap it into place, head on the other side and do the same thing. Now, as you can see, we're pretty taut, so there really isn't a need to drill. Keep in mind, you also have your heat shield laid across the top here from Anderson Composites, and you'd have to drill through that as well. So we're not going to be doing any drilling for these notches, but you can if you'd like to do that here. Next up, we're going to install our hood latch. Now, keep in mind, depending on the factory color of your vehicle, you might have a black hood latch or whatever color it may be. If you have a color like ours, race red, doesn't really blend in too well under the hood. I'd recommend painting it. That's my personal preference. But no matter which way you end up going, you can install your hood latch at this point. All right, now you can grab your 10 socket and tighten them down. That's going to wrap up my review and install for the Anderson Composites Type-GT5 GT500 style hood with the double carbon fiber, available for the 18 and newer GT and EcoBoost. Now this guy you can pick up right here at AmericanMuscle.com.